How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the YouTube channel, and today we're doing another mix breakdown. This is Karan Aujla's Don't Look. This is mixed by me, it's produced by J-Track, and released on Rahan Records. So let's get started. All right, so we're gonna start off with the bass. First thing I'm gonna do is turn off all of the plugins, and then I'll slowly turn them on and kind of show you guys what I did to achieve the final result that ended up being on the record. So let's quickly solo this. And this is without any plugins on it. And then I put the Pro Key 2 on it, just rolling off some of that top end, and let's hear that. And then I have the R bass on it. Just add a little bit more harmonics and make the bass sound a lot fatter and a lot bigger, and adds a little volume bump as well. Next up we have the kick, so let's quickly solo that, and let me turn off the plugin. And I'm not really doing much to this, so let's quickly just turn on the plugin. I'll show you guys what I did. Just a little bump at 61, 120, and 355, just to like cut through the mix a little bit better. Adds a little bit of that top end, a little bit of that low mid, just to kind of let it punch a little bit better. So next up we have this percussion element. It's just to add a little bit more to the groove. I didn't really do much to this. And even if you take a look at my drum track, I'm not really doing much to the bus overall. So let's hold this real quick. And adding into that, let me just hold this over here, is the hi-hats and playing with the drum and the percussion as well. Sorry, it's a shaker, not a hi-hat. And then we have a John Jur sound. I don't know how to describe this. It's kind of like a hi-hat type of sound. It's just adding a little bit more percussion, which J-Track is really, really good at. So I'm gonna solo these quickly together as well. And that was all the drums. Next up, we have the Tolki. I actually made a couple of changes to this, and the reason why I separated in two different files is because there's an intro Tolki that played at the beginning, and then there's a separate one that plays after throughout the record. And I wanted the intro to sound a little bit different, like separate from the actual track, just so when the track comes in, it just sounds like a full record. And so all I did to the first one, let me turn off this vinyl plugin real quick. There's already a radio effect on it. J-Track had added it before he had sent it to me. Let me turn on the vinyl plugin. Kind of gives it that 1970 feel, rolling off a little bit of that top end, making it sound a little bit more old school. You'll find out the reason later why. And then the main Tolki, let me turn off these two plugins. It's just the EQ and the DBX 160 compressor, and then solo this for you guys. All right, so first thing I did was Pro Key 2. I took out a lot of that low mid. It sounded super muddy and it would just not sit well in the mix. All I really wanted was that top end to kind of make it shine through. So I took a huge chunk out of that low mids, almost 20 dB. Next up, we have the DBX 160. I'm really crushing this, even though I have them. I'm compressing about 10 dB, and I have the mix turned down to about 83%, as I wanted some of the original sound to kind of come through. You know, that's it for the Tolkis. Nothing on the processing, the actual bus. All right, we have the intro instruments, and this is probably one of the most interesting part of the tracks because I actually have it sounding a little bit different than the rest of the entire song. What I did was I kind of added that vinyl effect to the beginning intro just to give it a little bit of a different vibe. So when the track comes in, it punches and it hits you right in the chest. I didn't do too much to these instruments. Let me just turn off what I'm doing processing wise on the bus channel. Let me show you guys what I did on the individual channels first, and then I'll add in the bus channels, and I'll kind of show you how I achieved the sound that I did. Let me solo the top one right quick for you guys. I'm not doing much. I'm cutting out some of those unnecessary low end, taking out some of those resonant frequencies. Next up, we have a set of chords that play in the background. Let me solo this for you guys. We have a set of chords that play in the background, and all I'm doing on this is melodyning. The reason why is because one of the chords actually was out of key, so I had to go in and manually change it to set it back in a key so it sounded right. And then let me show you guys with it on. Simple. And then on the bus channel itself, I'm compressing quite a bit, and so let me play that real quick for you guys. Let me solo these. Actually, I'm compressing about like 2-3 dB, so not too bad, but just to kind of bring those peaks down a little bit and help it kind of sit a little bit better in the mix. And then I added vinyl. And then without the two plugins, there's a lot more high end and a lot more brightness in them, so I wanted to take a little bit of that out. I wanted to sound a little bit old school. The lo-fi plugin I'm not really doing much with. It's all set to 0. Next up, we have these keys that play in the back, and including the little synth, the sawwave synth that everyone likes from old school West Coast records. So let me solo that for you guys real quick. And first off, we have simple piano chords. J-Track, before he sends me a record, he always cleans up everything, so there's not much I have to do on my end other than just leveling and some harmonic changes. So next up we have the saw wave, and I'm compressing this pretty hard because I wanted to cut through the mix. I also wanted it to sit well. Let me just quickly turn it off. That's with it on and with it off. Simple, not really doing much. You guys want to see what I'm doing? All right, so next up we have the piecework, and this is probably one of the most interesting part of the songs. It is sampled from an old Chamkila song. We got the flutes replayed. Let me quickly show you guys with it on and then with it off, and I'll show you with the flutes and the tumbi in the background, and let me solo those real quick for you guys. And let me turn off all the plugins that are on the channel, including the reverb and delay. So this is what the raw flute sounds like with the tumbis in the back. So all I did was add some CLA 2A for compression. I'm compressing like, I believe 2 to 3 dB max. Not even that, I'm compressing like 1 to 2 dB. I'm cutting out a lot of the low ends, taking out a lot of these resonant frequencies in the flute because they're super sharp. And so I need to take those out just so it would sound better to your ears in the mix. Let's hear with that. And then next up we have the vinyl. Once again, this is the same settings, maybe a little bit different from each other. However, very similar settings to one another. So let's hear with that. And then I added a little bit of distortion. Give it a little bit more old school feel along with the vinyl. And then lastly, we have the Pro MB, which is just a multi-band compressor. I'm compressing just a little bit of that top end just to kind of bring everything a little bit more down and sit well to just for your ears, you know? And then finally we have reverb, and then we have the delay. And that's the final flute sound and the tumbi sound. All right, the main part that everyone's here for is Karan Aujla's vocals, and I'm gonna show you guys how I mix this, but I'm gonna start with all the plugins off, and then I'll slowly bring in the plugins and show you how I achieved the final sound that ended up on the record. So let me quickly just solo this for you guys. This is the lead vocal. So that's the raw vocal, and then I start off with the API 2500, and I'm using the lead Vox preset, turning the analog off because it adds a hum, pulling the threshold down until we reach about 6 dB of compression. So let's hear with that on. And some of the peaks get caught in that too, so we're going a little bit over -6. Next up, we have the Pro Q2, cutting out a lot of that low end. Once again, probably just a regular resonant frequency and a little bit of that upper mid range. Sorry, the bottom of that mid range, taking out a big chunk of it, about 2.5 dB. And then next up we have the Pro MB, which I'm compressing the low end and the high end a little bit differently. And then we have the CLA 2A. Compressing in between -5 and -7 dB just to kind of squash that vocal down a little bit. In Punjabi music, we love our vocals compressed pretty heavily. And then I'm adding another multi-band compressor, C4 by Waves. Compressing a lot of that upper mid-range, that top end, just to kind of bring it down as it sounded kind of sharp. And then we have the Alicia EQ, which I'm cutting out 0.4 dB and at 202 hertz, cutting out 165, about 2 dB. So let's hear with that on. And then the Renaissance Axe, compressing once again. Let's hear with that on. 2 to 3 dB compression. And then last, we have the JJP vocals. I like to turn the magic knob all the way down because it adds a hiss to the record. So I added a little bit of space, a little bit of attack, attitude, and presence. I believe I turned the highs down as well. I believe I turned the lows down as well. I turned the de-esser up a little bit. So let's hear with that on then. All right, so we have the final vocal sound. I'm gonna add the reverb and delay, and then I'll turn everything off and turn it back on so that you guys can hear with it and without it on. And then let me quickly just turn everything off. All right, and then with it on. All right, so last but not least, we have the Mix Plus channel. I'm gonna quickly show you guys with everything on, and then I'll show you guys with everything off, and then we can kind of go from there. All right, so let me solo the instrumental for you guys real quick with the drums and everything, without the vocals, and then we can kind of hear it, and we can kind of go from there. And then with it off. All right, so let's just quickly turn everything on one by one. The BXXL V2, adding a little bit of low-end information, a little bit of low-end harmonics, and then I'm adding a little bit to the mid-highs. I'm adding a little bit of width, a little bit of stereo width, just kind of let it pop out on the outsides, turning the input up a little bit because I felt like the master was just not, like my mix was kind of hitting on the lower end, so I kind of turned it up just 4 dB. Let's hear what that on. So not really much. And then I'm gonna add the Pro Q2, and this I'm hardwalling the bottom end and hardwalling the top end. A lot of the information under 25, 26 hertz can't really hear, and neither can a lot of speakers produce that low of a sound. So, you know, we take that right out just to clean up some of that low end information and give you a little bit more headroom. So let's hear what that. And then I'm doing a lot of mid-side work here. I'm cutting out a lot of those lows underneath 200 hertz. And the reason for that is I want the bass and the kick drum, the main parts, to hit, and I want them to hit in mono because that's where you're gonna feel it in your chest. So I'm taking out a lot of that low end information out of the sides and, you know, causing that to be mono. And then I'm doing a little bit of stereo EQ as well on the channel. So I'm cutting out about 300 hertz and another notch at like about 1000 hertz. And then I have a mid-side push up at 1.3 dB, and that kind of adds a little bit of high end to that side and kind of pushes up that information a little bit and causes, you know, stereo width to be a little bit wider and bigger. Let's see what that on. And once again, very, very subtle changes up until the actual master. And now we have the Pro MB, and I'm just using a preset that is built into Pro MB. It's called the harsh upper mid and harsh upper mid and highs control. Let's see what that's doing. So compressing a little bit of that top end just to kind of bring it down, make it sound a little bit more pleasant to the ears. And then we have the T-Rax Classic Clipper, which is a soft clipper plugin. You know, I'm hitting it pretty hard. I'm hitting around 3 to 5 dB. Let's see what that's doing. And then we have Pro L. I have Pro L2 now, but Pro L is what I was using about 5-ish years ago. And I have the attack set to about 250, release at about 357, and I have the transients up to 100, release at 0, and then I have it cranked about 5 dB. So let's see what that's doing. And then finally, it's just a metering plugin. It's just see how loud the mix is. The master is. Let's hear that. Let's see what this is doing. And then that's it. That's pretty much it for the mix and master. I just want to thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, and make sure you guys keep it locked because I'm going to be dropping a lot more of these and with a lot more songs that I've done. So once again, thank you guys for watching.